What's up, BenchWarmerz fan? We are back. Man, it feels good to hear that music introducing us. Your boy here, Jono, with my man, disappointed Bulls fan, Lo. What's up, brother? What's up?
Hey, what's good, man? It's been a minute, but you know what I'm saying, that there has been a lot of stuff that's been happening, and that's the reason why we haven't been able to do some recordings. So, for those who may or may not know, Jonathan is no longer a single man, ladies. He is now a married man.
That's
And
right.
so, between preparing for this wedding, doing a wedding, I had the awesome privilege of even marrying him and his beautiful wife, Alex. And so, we took some time off. He had to regroup, but we figured no better time to come back now, especially in the midst of the height of basketball season. And so we're going to get right into our episode today. I know Jono and I, we've been kind of discussing before our episode. He's fired up to talk about some things that's on his heart. I'm definitely going to leave it up to him on a lot of these topics, as he is the expert in these areas of conversation. But we're going to dive right in. Before we even start talking about March Madness, Jono, I know that we have seen what was transpiring there in the women's bubble and the facilities that was given to the women's basketball to the ladies in the NCAA tournament, and the facilities that they gave them in regards to the equipment to prepare for these games. And so I'm going to leave it up to you, man. What was your thoughts when you first saw and heard about, the weights room and the facilities that the women had to, what the women received during the bubble? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you for that, and addressing this topic. First off, NCAA failed. Let's just start there. They failed.
When have they not
athletes.
failed? When has the NCAA actually have done something where we're just like, you know what? Kudos to the NCAA, right?
Yeah, and this was their moment, right? I mean, to your point, Lo, this was their moment where they could have gotten it right. For those who don't know, and let me just rewind a little bit though. But for those who don't know and maybe aren't following the NCAA as closely as you and I both men's and women's basketball tournaments are being taking place in two different cities in a bubble, kind of how the NBA did it, right? So the men's basketball tournament is taking place in Indianapolis, and the women's basketball tournament is taking place in San Antonio. Upon arrival for these athletes who set foot in San Antonio, their weight room, and I'm going to say this, I'm just going to say their room, because there wasn't even barely any weights, was absolutely atrocious. I mean, it was posted all over Twitter, Instagram, any social media platform that could have had a chance to post any of these videos. They were given dumbbells up to 30 pounds and yoga mats and just a room, and say, you know what, this is what you do to work out. Now, here's my thing, right, Lo? When they decided to do a bubble for both men's and women's basketball, was there not one person at the round table who thought that this was just an awful idea?
But, John, I'll answer your question with the question. How many times have we not seen corporations and, just things that just, they drop the ball, regardless whether it be an issue, just not being socially aware. And we ask that very same question, right?
Yeah.
It's like no one in that room thought, maybe we should give them a little bit more than just, a rack of weights up to 30 pounds and some yoga mats, as if women only do yoga and light weights and, they don't do anything else. Right.
I read something, Lo. I read something that really, like, for me, it frustrated me, and it made sense as to why not even women in the NCAA tournament, but women across the world, when they play sports, right? Like the soccer teams that are fighting for equal pay and just equal justice overall. I read something that said the facilities showed two things. On the men's side, it says, we're happy to have you here. Enjoy this luxury. And on the women's side, their weight room literally showed them, we're just happy to have you. And that's I mean, as a father of a young daughter, it's frustrating. It's disrespectful to the amount of work that these women put in to even get themselves in this position, for them not to be treated the same way as the men who all fall under the NCAA. Failed. They flat out failed. And they didn't even, the biggest thing that's frustrating about this too, but before we move on, is they didn't even address their failure. The one thing they said was there's not enough room. There wasn't enough facilities. But again, going back to that round table, when they picked San Antonio as the bubble for the women's basketball tournament, they knew the kind of facilities that they were going to work with. So there's no excuse. It's disappointing that the women are even facing all of this, and the outcome of it, right? The outcome of it is there's private companies that have donated some of their workout equipment to the women's so they can have just the opportunity to work out the same way the men do. And again, it's frustrating. I wish the NCAA would just understand, the umbrella that they fall under and just give equal rights to every single athlete that falls under the NCAA umbrella.
So let me ask you this, because I'm going to play devil's advocate, just because I know that there'll be rumblings. There's always that group of people who are going to ask these type of questions, but how much of that is oversight compared to finances that the women basketball team, the amount of money and viewership that the NCAA tournament will bring on the women's side compared to the men? Sure. Do you think that contributed to, I mean, not to say like what the women received was like, you and I could have went to Walmart and Target and bought the stuff that they bought for these women. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So we know the utter disrespect, but how much do you think finances, or even saying, you know what, we're not going to, how much do you think that contributed into that decision?
It's a fair question. It's a fair thought. It's something that in the equal pay, equal rights thing that everybody brings up, right? TV rights, TV contracts, TV deals. But what I want to say to that is every women's NCAA basketball game is being televised on a national television station, ESPN, ESPN2, right? They're all on there for all of us to watch. Mm-hmm. So whether or not the ratings are there, it's out there for us to watch. And if we are fans of basketball, if we're fans of sports, there's no reason why people shouldn't watch the women's basketball. It's just as competitive as the NCAA tournament for the men's side, right? Obviously, we understand that the men's get the limelight, the contracts, we get it. But the NCAA supports all sports. And it's about time that they start equalizing every single sport, both men and women's, and give everybody the equal right to the privilege that they're given. I mean,
when you say equal rights, so can you specifically mention what you're talking about? Equal rights.
So just giving the same playing field as the men, right? I'll give you an example, right? So the men, when they get there, and the women's, they get to the bubble, they're given like a welcome package. The men's welcome package included way more things than the women's did, right? T-shirts, book bags, deodorant, shoes, whatever the case may be. It's accessories. Thank you for working hard. Here's a treat. Enjoy it. And the woman's got a backpack and a shirt and just a hat. And it's like,
they're an afterthought. They're not really.
It's upsetting. It's upsetting. Okay. NCAA needs to get it right. And I know a lot of athletes have spoken out on this. Kobe fought for this. Kyrie is doing the same thing now. And there's more limelight or just more of a platform for people to speak on the unfortunate.
And the truth of the matter is, these superstars are going to have to speak out more, especially for women athletes to get the respect that they deserve. You know what I'm saying? You and I, you're a basketball head. You love basketball. I know when, especially you as a coach, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in our segment today. But women play a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a lot of flash. It's a lot of details, a lot of fundamental. Thank you so much, man. I'm losing. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Early tomorrow. It's too early, but yeah, they play a very fundamental type of game of basketball. And to be honest, for me, I'm not someone who watches women's basketball unless it's something historic. Like I'm a big UConn fan, so you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
Shout out to the Huskies. You see, I'm wearing my fitted hat, so you know they
Paige
made
Bueckers.
they made their Sweet 16. So I know that once they get to, I'm watching them. But outside of that, I typically don't watch. But when you do watch it, you realize as a basketball head, the amount of work that they put into their craft. They put in just as much work as do the men. And I agree 110% that, you know, at some point the NCAA has to look themselves in the mirror and say, you know, what are we doing? Did we get this right or did we not? And obviously they dropped the bubble. I mean, they dropped the ball on this issue, especially with the women's bubble during the NCAA tournament. So we're going to transition into our March Madness segment, man. You know what I'm saying? And I know for you, this is the most exciting. You know, some people get excited for Christmas. You get excited during the month of March. As I mentioned, you know, I'm more of an NBA guy, more professional basketball. I don't watch too many amateur games. UConn got knocked out in the first round to Maryland. And after that, I was just like, you know, I can't. I love to watch the Cinderella teams play. And so I know this is the first time in NCAA since 70-something that Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, and I think North Carolina have not 76. Been in the Sweet 16, 76. So so this, I believe, has been a good brand of basketball. What are your thoughts on the tournament so far?
So far, so good, man. I love it. And we talked about the NBA bubble, right, in one of our very first episodes. And you're seeing the bubble effect in basketball in this tournament. You know, we have the number 15 seed, Oral Roberts, heading into the Sweet 16, the second 15 seed ever to do it. And then Florida Gulf Coast being the first team to do it, of course. And then, you know, you got teams like Syracuse, an 11th seed, beating a three seed, West Virginia, to go to the Sweet 16. And then you also got Loyola Chicago, which I think they were seeded wrongly. They should have been anywhere between like a 4 or 5. But they're going to the Sweet 16 as well. And I mean, it's just exciting to watch, you know, small teams, right? Mid-major teams defeating the bigger named programs like Loyola Chicago did. They beat Illinois. But I tweeted something as that game went on this past Sunday. And even if you're a mid-major D1 basketball player, you're still playing high-level college basketball, right? Kids these days, man, they think, oh, if I'm not going to Duke or if I'm not going to Kentucky, I'm not playing, you know, good basketball. But look at the teams that are successful in March, right? And yeah, of course, the Blue Bloods win the national championships, you know, far more often than some of these mid-majors. But these mid-major teams have the most success come March. Yeah. And we see it every single March. Why? Because they're guys that they buy into systems. They play solid basketball. They're not there to with the idea of let me go one and done and then I know I'm going pro after. These are guys who work their tail off. They understand the system. They fit the system, and they play 4 years of basketball. And look what happens. And they go to the Sweet 16.
You made a point that that actually I think what makes the NCAA tournament very special and very unique type of basketball, that these mid-majors or these schools that, you know, these D1 schools that don't get a lot of national recognition, the reason why they succeed in these type of tournaments, one, you know, saying you're one and done. Whoever's hot, usually, you know, whoever goes into the conference tournament, you know, if they have a hot hand, they usually transitions into March Madness. But you got, as you said, you got a lot of these young studs who are not, or young players who are not 4 or 5 star recruits, one and done type guys. These are juniors and seniors who's been on this team. And so there's a collective bond, you know what I'm saying? There's this chemistry that these teams are able to play that most of these big, you know, at least this year, you notice, like with the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Kansases of the world, that you're kind of seeing the shift of the one and dones, not as emphasized, or they don't have as great of an impact now in this game than they did before. Maybe it's a pandemic, maybe that will shift. But the last few years, we've been seeing that, you know, you can have this, you know, all the top recruits in the world doesn't mean that you can create chemistry with all these top talents. And so,
I mean, look at Duke. Yeah. You know, brought in one of the top 5, you know, recruiting class. And I'm a huge Duke fan. It's the first time in my entire life Duke's not playing in the tournament. You know what I mean? And look at the class they brought in, and it doesn't always pan out. Right. And What I want to point out too about that Oral Roberts team is their guards, right? Their point guard number 3, I forget the kid's name. He leads the nation in scoring.
Mm.
You know, and if you're a scorer, you can score anywhere. It doesn't matter
you get
where
buckets
you're
on
playing.
Whatever level. Yeah.
Right. Oral Roberts, their enrollment is a little over 3,000, right? Tulsa, Oklahoma, very small school. They come into the tournament, beat Ohio State. Come into the tournament, beat Florida. They're in the Sweet 16. If you can play basketball, a school is going to find you, and all you have to do is stay true to yourself and just keep doing the thing.
And what the beautiful thing is about like a school like Oral Roberts, as you said, is now they got national exposure. They get all these stories that they typically want to have, and now they can actually recruit and pitch to, you know, the 3, 4, 5 stars. I mean, you know, I'm not saying they may not land the 5-star, but guys who wouldn't be interested in saying, you know what, yes, you're playing in a bigger conference. Yes, you're, you know, obviously this program has far more money and far more flash, but we believe we can get into. We have now evidence that we can compete with these guys, and all we need is just one game.
Works.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so I love that. So, you know, I love those stories where the little 3,000 school member school, beats, you know, the school with, you know, with.
I'm always down for the underdog when it comes to March, man. If you know, I'm not a betting man, but if I had to bet, you know, for the underdog every time, I would.
Yep.
And then it just makes for a better story. So the tournament has been great. I'm excited to see the Sweet 16 this coming week and weekend, and you know, it's going to be a fun ride, man. It's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. I know this is now we're going to wait another week before the Sweet 16 begins. As a UConn fan, you know, I'm glad that we made the tournament. I think this is the start of something new, but it's been awesome to see, you know, these no-name schools, you know, taking up the spotlight. So with all that being said, I filled out the bracket this year, and I had Gonzaga winning the entire tournament. So who do you think will win the NCAA tournament, Jono, based on what you have seen so far?
Yeah, no, I'm riding the Gonzaga bandwagon as well. I watched them open up against Kansas in the beginning of the season. I've watched them a lot this year, and I just think that they are overall the best team in the tournament. They average 92 points a game, which is first in all of NCAA, which is a ton of points in college basketball. And then they have a margin of victory of 13 to 15 points a game. They only lost one, or they've only played one game this year where they won, and it was less than 10 points. And that was against West Virginia. So they've beaten teams, and they've beaten teams pretty bad. And you know, they've gotten tested as well, and they've overcome all those tests, and they've got 3 All-Americans on the team. I just think they're too much to handle. You know, they just played their last game against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's guard, Austin Reeves, absolutely destroyed them, and they still ended up winning by double digits. Their first-team All-American, Corey Kispert, had an awful game. He did shoot well from the 3. He had foul trouble, but some way, somehow, Gonzaga always finds one person or 2 people to come off the bench, or just overall to have a good game. Right.
And I think that's going to be the biggest fear, though, because, you know, they haven't really played, you know, these tight, close games. They've kind of, you know, beaten teams pretty well. And now I'm curious to see, because, again, I have Gonzaga winning the entire thing just because they're the most balanced team, and the guard plays, you know, they just defensively, they can hit jump shots. So they have been a very good team to, you know, as I was watching during the tournament, I'm just like, yeah, these guys are well rounded, and they're bought in. But they have a week now. You have a week off now, so teams can, you know, prepare, and all you need is one game to knock them out. Can they continue that momentum? But I have Gonzaga as well. I like to see history, so I think they'll be the first team in over 40 years, 30 years.
I think it's 72 Indiana.
Yeah,
I think that was the year.
Indiana. Yep, it was Indiana that they'll go undefeated. You know what I'm saying, for the whole regular season.
I think they could do it, man. I really do. I just think, you know, Mark Few is a phenomenal coach. This is obviously the best team he's put together in his entire tenure at Gonzaga. I think if a team is going to beat them, you know, it has to be a night where Gonzaga's off, right? Where they're not shooting threes, they're not making shots, turning the ball over and playing real sloppy. But on top of that too, I mean, they're a team that averages 17 assists a game.
Right.
You know, they're still
they're just a very well-rounded team, unselfish team. Yeah, like I said, I'm very thoroughly impressed with Gonzaga. Usually you have one or two guys who that's the go-to guy, you know that. But with Gonzaga, they all can hit shots, you know what I'm saying? And they and very good defensive team as well. So we'll see. But that's who I have winning the entire tournament is Gonzaga. As we talked about, March Madness is just a great time during this month as we, not only with college basketball, but as well as, at least with this season, the NBA trade rumors. But before we transition into the NBA, we was discussing, we wanted to add this segment into our episode today and talk a little bit about the AAU basketball. And the reason why I wanted to specifically talk about, I can't say I coach college, either college or high school, but I have, whether it be church leagues or even my former high school that I attended, I was an assistant coach there. And but I never got into the AAU circle. One of the kids that I'm mentoring and coaching got involved with the AAU thing. And so when I went to his tryout, kind of started scoping out the talent, I was just very overly disgusted in how, maybe I don't know the coach, but just the way that it was ran, it was who's the best player, who can we bring in, and we're going to be playing in this tournament. And there wasn't a lot of coaching, a lot of fundamentals. And I remember hitting you up, Jono, and I was like, yo, what's the deal with AAU? And you kind of told me what the purpose of AAU basketball. And I was just like, well, this is why it's harder for these kids to grasp the game of basketball. And during the little open tryout, these kids are just pulling up threes. And I know we have our discussions about Steph Curry and how he ruined the game of basketball. And I'm just like, you are a Curry hater. But after seeing what was transpiring on the court, I could see that, okay, you're pulling jump shots, you're doing all of this stuff, but the kid doesn't know how to get back on D, doesn't know how to come off a proper pick and roll. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't know how to communicate and point it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just the very basics that we grew up understanding. This is why my game never flourished as I saw kind of the game transition. I was a jump shooter. You stand in your corner, big man gives you the ball, you hit the corner in the jump shot. You know what I'm saying? Like we play zone, you jump shoot, that's it. You don't do all of these extra things. You have to stay within the system, stay within what we're trying to run. And there was a lot of fundamentals that we grew up watching, but you've been a coach for this, you've yourself have an AAU team that's traveled and competed. But what are your thoughts, man? Is AAU basketball ruining the game of basketball? Is AAU ruining the game of basketball? What are your thoughts, man? I really want you to lay it thick, man.
This is a good question. And before I go into my soapbox, I do want to address that there are some very, very well ran AAU programs. So I don't want to say that all, programs that fall into AAU are having a negative impact on the game of basketball or on the kids that, play in these tournaments. But what I do want to address is this, and a couple things. AAU is a business. We all know this, right? You pay your fee, you have a team, you play your tournament. But at some point, this business needs to run in a professional manner to make sure basketball is still being played in a quality way. I've been around AAU as a player and now as a coach for well over 10 years. Going on, almost 15 years. And I've seen a steady decline on the quality of teams, right? The quality of tournaments being ran, right? The venues that are holding these tournaments and the professionalism that the parents, the players, and even the people that are running these AAU tournaments have. That's my biggest discretion when it comes to AAU basketball. I came from an era in AAU basketball where the basketball was top level, where teams weren't flocking to the EYBL circuit or the Adidas circuit or the Under Armour circuit, because if you played AAU basketball, you were good. Your program was good. We're in an era now that if a kid doesn't make a high school basketball team, his parents going to make an AAU team, and now that's just how it is. My program that I've been a part of for the last 10 plus years, the EYSF program, EYSF Panthers, we don't recruit. we do things the right way. We make sure grades are a big factor, because if you don't have grades, you ain't getting recruited.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do the kids play one level one day and the next level the other day. We don't bounce kids around age groups. And that's what I'm seeing nowadays. And
we just see Kendrick Perkins snap off on that just the other day?
That's exactly what I was about to say. The last thing I want to point on is I don't usually agree with Kendrick Perkins.
No.
I think sometimes I'm not his biggest fan. But what he said about AAU basketball was spot on. There's no reason why these parents are running on the court, fighting in the stands. Players are doing the same thing. They won't do it in high school basketball with their schools. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason why they should do it in AAU basketball. And the standard of AAU basketball needs to change. It needs to be more high level. It needs to be more professional. And parents need to understand that it's basketball. Parents are parents. Let them do their thing, right? They don't need to be on the court. That's the coach's job. That's the player's job. If you want to support your kid from the stands. Mm-hmm. And my discussion with AAU is that they have been so lenient on pretty much everything. I can't tell you how many times I've seen parents fight. I've seen kids fight. I've seen brawls happen. And the kids have to learn this from somewhere.
Right.
And it's upsetting as a basketball fan, as someone who used AAU basketball to get to the college ranks, that it's just not the same level of basketball that it once was. And the focus has more been about how much money can we make? We missed out last year on this pandemic. Let's hold tournaments and do this, this, and this. There's no safety procedures going on.
Yeah, I saw that was crazy that these people were traveling. And like I said, the kid that I was, I've been mentoring, we're traveling over here, we're traveling over there. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the kid, he just made the freshman team. He has, he's not very confident in his jump shot. There's all these little things that I picked up on as a coach, you know what I'm saying? And I'm seeing him, and I'm not seeing his coach from the AAU team, really hyper focus on that. And then, yes, more money has to be spent. And most of these families don't have money like that. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, they do fundraisers. And I'm seeing, like, it's this pipe dream, and these coaches are trying to live a fantasy through their team to try to, listen, if you want to give back to your community, give back to your kids, I'm all for that. But if you're trying to vicariously trying to use these kids to try to build something up for your own profitable game, then you're ruining the purity of what the game of basketball and what AAU essentially was created to be. When it first was created, that kind of that hub in between, the development stage between high school and college. AAU, all right, you're going to compete with the best. We're going to see, we're going to see the work that you have put in the off season and see how you're going to, do with, in these tournaments. So, Jono, before we transition into our next segment, what are some suggestions that you think can improve the game or improve AAU basketball moving forward, especially from a coach's perspective?
Yeah, no, from a coaching perspective, man, I just think there needs to be more professionalism when it comes with the people who are running these tournaments, the referees, discipline on the kids, discipline on the coaches. I'll tell you a quick story here, man. We're playing a tournament, and here in Claremont, Florida, and one of my kids hits a 3-point buzzer beater. The stands is going crazy. Kids are getting ready to shake hands, and the refs call the game and say, the shot didn't count. And in Florida, high school basketball at the varsity level, you have 3 refs. In AAU basketball at the varsity level, right, you play by 16, 17-year-old age brackets. You only have 2. Mm-hmm. And that's something I don't understand. If these kids are playing at a high school level, hold them to a high school level. Hold them to the same rules. Hold them accountable to the same thing the high school does. Why is there such a drastic difference in how AAU runs their basketball and high school runs their basketball? It should be the same thing. It should all fall under the same umbrella, right? So I'm talking to the ref about what's going on, and he shows me his pocket. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he, gives me the money symbol. And I'm like, oh, so you're in it for the money. You're here for the weekend to collect the check, $50 a game, whatever that may be. And, I stepped out of character for myself because I was very disappointed in the way that this ref handled it for the kid's sake, showing me his pocket, talking about the money he's getting. Look, I personally don't get paid to coach AAU basketball. I've never received $1 for it. I do it because I love it. I love helping the kids. I love developing the kids. And when they go off to get scholarships and they're playing college basketball, I've done my job. And our formula has worked for the last 17 plus years. One of the long-running AAU programs in this area. And when I saw that, that was just the biggest disappointment I've ever had as a coach in AAU. And we haven't, because of the pandemic last year and this year, we're not playing. But I can't wait to get back next season, right, in 2022, summer of 2022, and we go back to doing what our program does best, developing kids, getting them to college, making sure their grades are right. And like I said, just doing it the right way. And I just think that's the lack of what some of these programs are doing. I think some of these programs have taken winning as a priority instead of developing, instead of helping kids, mentoring kids. You mentioned getting kids off the street, getting them in school. That's what AAU basketball should be about. If you're going to give these kids a platform to play basketball, give them a reason to play basketball. It can't just be to win. It has to be for development. It has to be for college. If you don't have the grades, you ain't going nowhere.
Yep. As we conclude this segment, I just want to, end this segment by saying, at least with the parents, you have to be realistic with your kids. Most of these kids, they're being pitched an idea that may not be realistic. You want to use basketball to try to further yourself. It may not be to the NBA, but hey, how can I use basketball to better myself as a human being, as a man, as a woman? You know what I'm saying? Can basketball help me to get an education that I probably wouldn't get if I didn't have these athletic abilities? And at the end of the day, parents, your parents, you have to be the role model to these kids. And with coaches, your job there isn't to try to stack up the best team. You want to have, you always want to recruit the best talent and create the best program for yourself. But your reason for coaching is to help these kids develop not only on the basketball court, but in life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in every aspect, and create well-rounded young men and young women. And so what I saw briefly, like I said, I'm not in the AAU circuit. Just with the little bit that I saw, I didn't like it. I didn't see we need to go back to the fundamentals and as to what makes great basketball players. We revere men like Kobe Bryant. We revere men like, Klay Thompsons of the world, the Stephen Currys of the world. These guys are naturally fundamental basketball players. And they will tell you is these little things that you overlook that made these guys great. You know what I'm saying? And so I think we just got to remind ourselves as to why we created amateur sports. It isn't for capital. It isn't, for capital gain. It isn't for profits. When you're true to what the game of basketball was designed to be, and you're true to the kids and to what basketball was intended in regards to what I mentioned about development, the money will come. Just be truthful to, be true to the core of what sports as a whole is supposed to teach. But with that being said, we're going to transition into the NBA. You know what I'm saying? This
is your cup of tea here,
man. You know what I'm saying? NBA is all day. Amateur. I'm trying to get into amateur sports, but the NBA is definitely my cup of tea. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to is the NBA trade line and moves that teams need to make. And we've already established on this podcast that Jono is a big Knicks fan. I'm a Bulls fan, but we are a fan of the players as well.
I want to say this real quick, Lo. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, you good. Go.
We always talk about the Bulls and the Knicks. How does it feel for you right now that the Knicks are trending playoffs and the Bulls are just like flatlining?
It's been, I've like I said, this is the first time I had NBA League Pass, and so I've tried to watch as many Bulls games as possible, and you can just see. I mean, Coach Billy Donovan has been doing a heck of a job with that talent. They have a lot of talent, but they're not a team, and there's a lot of mental lapses that I've seen that hasn't. Again, this is what great coaches do. You gotta go through. I mean, bro, we're up 20 points and we'll collapse and blow 20-point leads in the fourth quarter. Zach LaVine shows that he can be a 1A, 1B superstar on a contending team, on the lottery team, but he has no help offensively. We don't have a natural point guard. Kobe White, I believe he's more of a six-man, kind of the Ben Gordon type, in that early 2000 team when Derrick Rose was the starting point guard. Ben Gordon came off the bench. I think Kobe White can do that. Thaddeus Young, bro, he emerged as this, he's kind of the glue guy for the team. He sucked under, the Jim Boland last year. So I'm seeing the Knicks. But the thing is with the Knicks, as a Bulls fan, is Tom Thibodeau he knows how to maximize his players. The problem is after 3 or 4 years, they kind of max out and he rides guys. And so you're kind of seeing Coach Thibodeau learning how to play the rookies a little bit more, not, ride guys 38, 39 minutes a game. But yeah, every time I'm just like, as long as we're in the 10th seed, I'm always looking when we win a game. Okay, all right, we're in the 9th, 10th seed, whatever. I'm hoping that we can get, but the Knicks are playing phenomenal basketball. But it kind of shows the transition of the game.
It feels good for you to say that. It really does.
Yeah, no, they're playing. But like I said, you needed an ex-Bulls coach to get you where you need. And I just wanted to throw that.
Well, I mean, the play of Julius Randle,
he's a stud, and I think Thibodeau has seen that, and so. We're not too far behind you guys. Contract. Well, so can he keep this up? I think New York has to resign him. He just showed that
100%. He's an all-star for the Knicks. He will be re-signed, and the Knicks will make playoffs, probably 6, 7, 8 seed, but playoffs for the first time in God knows how long, 20 years or something like that. I'd be cool with it.
But it's funny because we're talking about the game of basketball in New York. I think they're ranked 4th or 3rd in the NBA in overall defense. And teams are still scoring 100+ points, which kind of shows
that's that modern day NBA.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm like, man, the top defensive team still putting up, you can still put up 100 points on there. So I like what the Knicks are doing. You know what I'm saying? It's still a 500 team. You can tell how bad, we've been yearning for relevant basketball for the Knicks and the Bulls. But I love what I'm seeing. Yeah. But definitely with the top tier teams, I look at teams like the Clippers who are just, man, can they do it? You know what I'm saying? Especially now with LeBron out 3 to 4 weeks, AD, Brooklyn is playing phenomenal. I have my thoughts on Kyrie Irving. I'll leave that for another time. That brother, man, he's a talent. I can't understand.
Got a lot going on.
Man, this brother took a PTOs for his birthday weekend and just like, yo, bump basketball.
Hey, I used to do it, man. I used to take PTO for my birthday too.
So during the basketball season though?
No, never during basketball.
Okay, season. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get paid to play a game, bro. Like, but Kyrie's his own little man. But I think that there's certain teams that need to make a trade. I look at the Philadelphia 76ers. I look at Boston, who has been underachieving tremendously, and I can't put a finger on it.
I think Boston has an identity crisis.
Yeah, who's the stud? Is it Beta? Is it Tatum?
We talked about this, right? We talked about this a couple of times in our podcast. Who is the stud? Right? Who's the guy? Is it Tatum or is it Brown? Just like you said, who do you run your offense around? Is it Tatum or is it Jaylen Brown? I think a guy like a Jaylen Brown is someone you can build around, and I didn't think that a couple of years ago. But his offensive game, no, of course, but his offensive game has developed so much that for me, Boston's team is Tatum's team, right? Like Jason Tatum is Boston. But then
I'm going to tell you why. He's a little bit more marketable. He's light-skinned. I think you know what I'm saying? No, seriously, like he looks like, okay, he's a face. I don't think his offensive the tools that he has in regards to his offensive game is a little bit more flashier than Brown, but right. Brown is a little bit better defender. But again, Kemba Walker,
athlete, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So Kemba Walker, he hasn't been 100%. He's been kind of up and down. So they haven't been receiving, strong point guard play. But what are the teams that needs to be? What do you believe, or what are you looking for in this NBA trade line, Jono? And what are some moves that teams need to make, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Philly. I think Philly needs to kind of solidify a point guard with Ben Simmons being out. I think this is a very hot take. I think the Raptors need to blow up their team. They won a championship a couple years ago. They competed last year, but it's time for the Kyle Lowry era to be done. and for the Raptors to build around Pascal Siakam. And you know, some breakups in the NBA, they're not always, you know, pretty, but he's 30-something years old. I think he's 32, maybe 33. And Philly needs a point guard. He's from Philly. I see that being the extra piece that Philly needs to beat a team like Milwaukee or
I don't understand
Brooklyn.
that fit, and walk me through that, because I heard the Kyle Lowry to the Philly. No, he's a Philly kid. Villanova, was it that the university went to? Am I right on that?
No, he's from Philly. He's from the heart of Philly. He went to Villanova, played there, and obviously did his thing in Toronto. I think from a fit perspective, he's another guy who can score. He's another guy that he comes in with veteran presence. He has championship experience, and he'll get that Sixers team, especially playing under Doc Rivers, he'll get them right. He'll get them right. Tobias Harris, you've got Joel Embiid. You've got the pieces to go ahead and compete for a championship. Now you just need to solidify that point guard position. Even with Ben Simmons
is not isn't Ben Simmons a point guard?
He is, but he hasn't. He's been hurt. He hasn't been playing. So if you do have a guy like Lowry get in there, even with Simmons playing too, I mean, Lowry can play off the ball, but at times if you need to go to the bench, you know, Simmons can come off and Lowry can play the point guard position, and you don't lose anything. You gain valuable experience in the point guard area with a guy like Kyle Lowry. I
would love Kyle Lowry to the Clippers. The Clippers need a point guard.
Clippers
so
too, and then Miami's looking at
Lowry. Any assets, but that would be a phenomenal fit.
I don't think so. I mean, there's a couple teams, you know, the Lakers are looking to make some moves ever since LeBron went down. You know, the deadline is Thursday, is tomorrow, 4 p.m. I expect some big trades to happen. I just don't know if they're going to be big enough for the Lakers to compete with LeBron being out. But with that being said, my friend, with the trade deadline coming up, we're going to play a game. We're going to play to trade or not to trade. And I've got a list of some NBA stars who are on the trade block, and I want you to answer for me, since you are my NBA expert, if they're getting traded or if they're not getting traded. And if they are getting traded, I want you to tell me what team you feel like would be the best fit.
All right. Go ahead. Shoot.
You ready?
Try to do my best. Go ahead.
Victor Oladipo, to trade or not to trade?
Trade.
To where?
To Milwaukee.
Okay. I like that.
Milwaukee.
Marcus Smart, to trade or not to trade?
Not to trade.
Really?
Yeah. He is a solid defensive stud. He's an energy. You know what I'm saying? Without him,
I like it.
Who do you replace? If anything, he's a strong-nosed defender. You know, he can hit the open jump shot. At times, he'd be kind of sporadic, and he thinks it's his team, and he'd be taking ill-advised shots. But now, no trade. Now, Boston needs to keep him.
Got it. Aaron Gordon, to trade. Not to trade. Where to?
Didn't think that one through. To trade or not to trade. Aaron Gordon needs to be traded. Where to? Man, I know the rumblings has been. Give me some teams,
Boston. Yep, it's been Boston. Atlanta's looking to make some moves. They want to solidify a playoff run.
I heard Boston, and I say no. Boston is not a good fit. Again, can he play the 3 role? Can he play the third star on a team? You know, you still have.
I personally don't think that Aaron Gordon has gotten any better. Yeah, I think he got drafted high. I mean, his ceiling was high, and he's plateaued. To me, he's still a dunker. He's just an athlete.
They thought that he was a Blake Griffin, you know, the kind of, you know, smart, but
he's a Blake Griffin now.
For sure. So he gets traded where to? I heard rumblings of Boston, Atlanta, but whoever he goes to, I heard not Brooklyn, but it was another team in the East. He gets traded where to? I don't know. Somewhere. All
right, we'll move on here. JJ Redick. To trade or not to trade, or I'm going to add one, a buyout.
I heard that he's going to get bought out. If he gets bought out, he'll be going back to Philly.
I was thinking the Lakers too. Lakers need a guy like him.
But Philly, he's familiar with Philly. They need a shooter.
Yeah, Philly would be the best fit. I agree.
Yeah, so if he gets bought out, he goes to Philly. I don't think anybody would trade for him. But if he gets bought out, he goes back to Philly.
Cool. Okay, cool. Moving on here. Toronto's very own Kyle Lowry to trade or not to trade?
Trade. They have to. Sad moment, but they have to kind of start the rebuilding process. I know
Agreed.
that Kyle Lowry, he said he wants a max contract wherever he does go. Obviously, at
Wow.
his age, he wants some security. He doesn't want to be bouncing around from place to place. It's sad to see that he's not going to be able to stay in Toronto, but Toronto needs to make that move. I know it won't happen, Jono, but I would love to see Kyle Lowry on the Clippers. The Clippers become so stagnant at times. They need point guard play. I think he will be a great fit if he ends up, with the rumors I have it, him going back to Philly. I'll be curious to see how that fits and how that works. Because he's somebody he's a hard-nosed defender. And right now, Philly is looking to compete with Brooklyn. So can you get another defender to guard a Kyrie Irving, to guard a James Harden? You know what I'm saying? So I can see it fitting that way. And somebody who can just put the ball on the floor, hey, we need a bucket. Kyle Lowry can at least if not create his own shot, he can create for other guys.
For others. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's also one of the best defensive point guards
absolutely.
in the NBA.
And he will bring that level of intensity that I don't think, with Joel Embiid there, he's kind of the heart of Philly. And but that's why I said I would love for him to see he will be the emotional leader that the Clippers need, and the offense. Hey, you know what? Bring it back. We're gonna set it up. And
True.
But I don't know if they have any assets, but definitely Clippers needs a point guard. But Kyle Lowry, traded Philly.
Cool. Moving on here. One of your favorite players, Lonzo Ball, to trade or not to trade?
I've been seeing rumors of Lonzo Ball connected to whether it be the Bulls. I heard rumblings of him going to what's the other team? It escaped me. The Clippers, even.
The Clippers.
I know that Magic Johnson mentioned, to the Knicks. I don't see him going there. I think he gets traded. And he'll probably end up going. Yeah, I think he gets traded. I'm saying that reluctantly, only because what do you give up for Lonzo Ball?
Well, let me tell you this: the asking price for Lonzo Ball is very high. It's a first-round pick, and it's a young player, a young contributing player. I don't know if teams are going to budge on that.
On a 1 year deal,
this is final year, and they didn't extend him. So what's going to happen is he's going to be a restricted free agent in the offseason. And teams, if he doesn't get traded now, teams are going to look to sign and trade him in the offseason for whatever the market brings for, a fourth-year point guard.
I heard rumblings of Lonzo Ball for like Lauren marketing, and I
wouldn't do that if I was the Bulls.
I would, I think they offered Fab a point guard. I can never pronounce his name. Sabas, Thayo. Anyway, our starting point guard at the moment, and like a first round pick, and they said no. I wouldn't give a whole lot. I would not give a whole lot for Lonzo Ball just because he's on a deal. It would be a good fit for the Clippers.
Best fit for the Clippers.
Yeah, he can push the ball. He's somebody who's pass first. They need somebody he's a very underrated defender. He can defend, and he's kind of been hitting the 3-point mark. I'm saying this reluctantly. He will get traded. If he gets traded, Clippers.
Okay.
Just because I'll need.
Okay.
Let's continue.
I can see that. And then we have Andre Drummond to trade, not to trade, or buy out.
I think they end up buying him out, and then he'll probably go to the Mavericks. Or if not, don't be surprised if he might make a run at Boston if he gets bought out. Either Boston,
I can see
or
that.
Dallas. Boston,
Tristan
Thompson has not been a good fit for that team. They need a big man. I've heard rumblings of the Bulls as well. Wendell Carter has not been the answer. He has been hurt. And
he's also from that area, UConn guy, went to prep school up.
I think he's been very underrated in his NBA career. He's a 2020 guy at any given night. Yep. But yeah, I think he gets bought out. I don't think anybody will do a big trade, and if he does, it will be either Boston or what's the other team I just mentioned?
Dallas.
Dallas or Boston. Those are the two. Yeah.
George Hill, trade or not to trade?
I think he gets bought out. If he does get traded, it'll be for like a low first round pick or 2 second round picks. And realistically, I think he'll go to the Clippers.
Okay. And then the last one here, I threw this in here, Cam Reddish. To trade or not to trade, the Atlanta Hawks have mentioned they're listening to trade talks for him. What's your thoughts on the young small forward from Duke?
Unless you're getting another, like, who are you going to get for Cam Reddish? Another Cam Reddish type basketball player? Unless you're filling a need. Atlanta at this point has so many point guards. Look out for the Rondo situation. Rondo, and he hasn't played Chris Dunn. They're loaded on point guards. I see them unloading one of those guys. And if they can, can you imagine Rondo being back on the free market? Bruh, like, there's going to be, he'll get picked up very, very quickly. Cam Reddish, I don't know. I think he stays. I don't see him as a big trade chip. And what you're going to be getting in return is something similar, rotational piece with potential. Now, here's one that's been rumbling, and I'm going to, you didn't mention this name, and I don't know if he's on your list. DeRozan.
Oh, yes. DeMar DeRozan, to trade or not to trade?
I think they're going to trade him. Where he goes, I don't know. But I'm looking at Milwaukee, bro. I keep looking at Milwaukee. I don't know what they can trade him for. But if they can get a DeRozan or Victor Oladipo, someone who can, score buckets and take a little bit of pressure off of Giannis and Singleton. Oh, can you imagine DeRozan on the Milwaukee Bucks, bro?
Oh, championship.
Yeah, if not a championship, if not a championship, definitely will be competing Game 7, with a Brooklyn type. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
We'll see. Those are my thoughts for the trade or not trade. You said there's going to be a lot of big trades. I don't see a lot of big movements happening. I think it's going to kind of be, you might get one, subpar all-star like an Aaron Gordon being traded. But I think they're asking for 2 first rounders. I was like, that brother is not. He's not that.
Not at all.
He doesn't change, push the needle in a direction to just, this guy brings them over the top. So those are my trade or not to trade segments.
Nice. I like that. Those were good teams. I think those were good, good trade predictions as well. It's going to be a fun week, man. Thursday is the deadline. This weekend, NCAA basketball, both men's and women's, is playing. Expect some really good games there. And then we'll be back here next week to talk a little bit more about the trade deadline and to talk about the Elite Eight and some of our predictions heading into the Elite Eight. As always, BenchWarmerz family, follow us on Instagram, follow us on our YouTube channel where you can capture all of our videos for every episode that we post there. And until next time, my friend Lo, I always appreciate you, my man.
Love you, bro. You already know
We're
what
out.
it is. Until next time, guys. Peace.